Minecraft has been around for over 15 years now, and if you're unfamiliar with hardcore Minecraft, then I'm quite surprised that you found my video. But you should know that this here is my 26th attempt at surviving 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. Before we get too attached to this world, you should know this is a failed attempt. I did not reach 100 days, but it's the closest that I've come. So as the world sputters to life on day one, let's take a look at my journey. I spawned here on a desert near a few azalea trees, which was really convenient, but my most recent attempt that didn't die in the first few days, attempt 24, was a desert start, and I didn't want to have a repeat of that world, as I was still grieving. So I gathered up the wood and I set sail, and by the end of the first day, I had found myself a small savanna island. I set about gathering up some food and some wool, planted down some crops, and figured that I would at least base here for a few days while I got myself some armor. On day 2, I cooked up my food, I gathered up a few resources, and then I found my way into a cave. Inside the cave, I did manage to find myself a fairly decent chunk of iron, more than one spot of it, but I did not explore it all the way down as it was getting late, so I ran home to smelt the iron, and I laid down for the end of day 2. On day 3, I went down into the cave to explore it further, gather up as many resources as I could. However, I found that this island was not much, so day 4, I finished smelting my iron, I gathered up all of my things, and I set sail for greener pastures, where I did come across a jungle, and then a birch forest, and a dark oak forest, and none of it really seemed that great. So I went to bed, and then on the start of day 5, I continued my journey. I passed through a spruce taiga and thought about staying here, but it just didn't seem right. I did stop to gather up some spruce, as since I'm passing all these trees, I might as well get as many different varieties as I can, and I went to bed for the night on day 5. Day 6, I am continuing my journey of exploration, trying desperately to find somewhere that seems fitting for a base. But however, on this adventure, I decided that I would do a little bit of looting, so I looted a ruined nether portal. I found myself a village, actually, so that was nice. I considered stopping here, but this just didn't seem like that great of a place. So I went to bed, and I spent day 7 just kind of looting around, finding my way through, and I actually found my first diamonds in this chest, so I've already got myself a diamond pick. That is fantastic. I gathered up all of their wheat and then spent the rest of the day selling all of it back to them so I could have some emeralds for any future villages I came across. I also made a Fletcher just so I could get just a few more emeralds, and sold all the pumpkins I found in the area, and oh look, we're on day 8 now, and I am just exploring the area. There's another ruined nether portal that had a god apple in it, so that is very exciting. I think I only ever found 2 of them in this playthrough. I gathered up a little bit of obsidian since I have the diamond pickaxe, and then I decided that I was going to continue on my journey. I was feeling a bit listless at this point. I didn't really know where I wanted to go, or what I wanted to do, or even what I was looking for in a base. On day 9, I did more ocean exploration. I looted a few sunken ships. I found myself some sunken treasure, and in it I did get some okay loot, including another diamond, so that's great. And what else did I do today? It looks like I got that, and then I think, I tried out some Frostwalker boots before settling in for the night. And that brings an end to day 9. On day 10, I am still out on the ocean. I am hunting for treasure, finding all sorts of treasure. These sunken ships really are, if you can find one with a loot chest, you get a lot of good iron and gold out of them. Found another buried treasure where I got yet another diamond, more iron and gold, so I am looking great on my resources now. I just need to settle on a place to live. After doing all of that treasure hunting, I ended up sleeping near that same village I found before heading out yet again to find more buried treasure. Honestly, once you start on this type of adventure, searching for all this buried treasure, you really do get sucked into it. The real trick to it, though, is if you get your guy on the X and then go to 9 within the chunk coordinates, you will always find the chest. At least that's how it works on Java Edition. Let's see. Oh, now we're up to day 15. I'm not actually sure what happened to day 12, 13, and 14, but I'm on a horse. I don't keep the horse very long, so please don't get attached to him. In fact, I'm pretty sure that this here is the clip where I end up abandoning the horse because he is not as useful as traveling via boat in this world, since there are oceans that just connect everywhere. So I wrap up day 15 by emptying out my loot a little bit and then leaving the horse and continuing on my journey, sailing away from the sunset. This is the only clip that I have from day 16, and it looks like my loot is piling up quite high and I am running out of inventory space. Which, honestly, when you don't have a base camp and you're just traveling around with a chest boat and your inventory, it's still more than you used to have, but seriously, you really do need a base camp, and I figured that at this point I really should try to find where I want to settle. So I continued sailing, and then on day 17 I found yet another ruined nether portal. With this one really didn't have a ton of great loot, but I figured that it was time to really think about where I wanted to go. At this point, I'm coming up on almost, 6,000, negative 6,000, and I decided that I was going to sail as close to that coordinate as I could, as there was just a gut feeling that I would find, if I didn't find a base spot there, that I would find something nearby. So I spent day 17 looting for treasure and exploring even further. Day 18, and I am still out on the open ocean, still exploring. At this point, I have abandoned the endeavor for sunken ships and treasures because my chest is just too full. I've contemplated ditching all of my saplings and going back for them once I found my base, but I didn't want to do that. And I was getting so close to 6,000, negative 6,000 that I had a sense that if I got there, my gut told me I would find the right place for a base. And I didn't use chunk base or anything. I don't use chunk base when I'm playing hardcore. However, the night of day 18, I did in fact find land near 6,000, negative 6,000. And not just any land. I found a mushroom island, which, seeing as I am on my 26th attempt surviving 100 days in hardcore, basing here might actually be the thing that saves my life in the long run. After sleeping through the rest of the night of day 18, it arrived on day 19, where I started putting away a good portion of my loot. I'm actually really excited to live here on a mushroom island biome. I've seen them many times. I come across them a few times during my hardcore playthroughs before this, but I've always felt like it was a little cheaty to live in one since no hostile mobs spawn. But I've also never really seen someone attempt 100 days in one of these. So I decided I'd throw down my saplings to get myself a solid supply of wood. I like to plant my acacias in like a 5 sapling star pattern because the tree that results from it just kind of looks a bit cool. And after that, I went to try and plant my crop fields when I learned that you can't actually hoe mycelium. Turns out that it just doesn't work. You actually have to do the extra step of making it a path block, and then you can hoe it to plant your crops. So that was a little extra work. Day 20, I am digging myself a mine. I decided I was going to do a staircase, but after a while, I figured that I could just do a ladder and dig straight down until I found a cave, because if I dug a staircase, I would end up outside of my mushroom biome. Part of why the mushroom fields biome is so great is that the caves directly underneath it also don't spawn mobs, so you don't need torches, unless, of course, you want to actually, see and have decent footage. Here I found just about the edge, or at least I thought it was the edge, but it turns out it's actually a zombie spawner. So that's super exciting. Day 21, I am still in the caves, and I keep hearing spiders while I'm in the zombie spawner, and I checked, and the spawner's well within the heart of the Mushroom Island, so that means that there might be another cave spawner here, and I had to look for it, and it looks like I found another dungeon, and peeking up into it, it was in fact a spider dungeon. So I decided I would check it out, and it looks like with a zombie spawning in here, this one actually is right on the edge of the mushroom biome. So I gotta be careful, and just to confirm, with the sheer number of zombies that were pouring out from that corner, I really had to check because it might be another spawner nearby. And it was genuinely alarming just how many zombies were there. So after I cleared it out, I went to check, and it looks like I am just at the edge of the biome. I can see a bunch of other mobs spawning. Turns out that the caves aren't as safe as I thought. Day 22, I am bringing in a couple of the mushrooms to help massively increase their population. Because it's important for rare mobs to have their populations restored. Definitely not me preparing them for slaughter. I also did my farming chores, and then spent another good portion of the day just building out more crops. I wanted a section dedicated specifically to wheat, so that I could breed up those cows more efficiently, and eventually when I get sheep. I also planted my bamboo and started to harvest all of that before finishing up by just gathering up a ton of wood from the trees that had grown. Today was really just kind of a resource-intensive day. Day 23, I am back down in the caves exploring the areas that I think are relatively safe. I've got myself a mineshaft right here in this area, and I don't need to light it up a ton because, again, I'm in the mushroom fields. But the thing that makes this area so scary is that when you're in a big cave like this, not the entire cave is in the mushroom biome. And out on the edges of the biome is where you'll find hordes and hordes of mobs. I did find diamonds here. It looks like I found 2 diamonds, which is very exciting. And then actually, oh wait, that's 3, and oh, I got 4 diamonds from this vein. Always exciting to see. On day 24, I was seeing just how close these 2 mob spawners were, and it turns out that the zombies and spiders are basically almost in the same chunk how close they are. So I had to laugh at how close they were, and that'll be a great opportunity to build myself a great XP farm when I remember to actually set up and do that. So I spent the rest of the day building a shaft back up to the surface. Day 25, it is time to set up a sugarcane farm, and I'm just going to call it the Stardew method because it's how you lay out your starter sprinklers in Stardew Valley. Basically, you have them in lines, and they're always 4 apart, and then, yeah, I couldn't explain the layout without showing it, but this is what I spent basically all day doing because it took me that long to just figure out how to do it correctly. I also got myself some furnaces and a smoker, and then on day 26, I am back down in the caves looking for more resources, trying to see if I can find more diamonds and iron and all of that good stuff. And I'm also trying to see the limit of where my mushroom field biome is underground. You can see all of those mobs swarming down there, and some diamonds, but I don't think I ever get those. I did find an amethyst geode. That was in the safe zone, no mob spawning, so that was really exciting, and it's a huge one too. And then on day 27, I emerged from the caves to set about doing some work to set up my base. So I terraformed an area just a little, just kind of up here on the edge of on one island near my farms. And then I laid out some foundational blocks. I decided I wanted to use tuff because it's new, and this is a 1.2100 days. And then I decided I would take some inspiration from Hermitcraft and follow, XB's flooring plan of creating kind of like a hardwood style floor. I really liked the look of it, so I went with the wood types that would make the most sense and threw that down, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out in the end. You can see here me just kind of carving away. I spent probably all night actually working on this floor. In fact, I think I did. I worked all through the night and well into day 29, where I am finally throwing down the finishing touches on the floor, and I think it looks great. I'm quite happy with it. It's nicer than any floor I've made in previous 100 days. So here we go. We've got the shape and the floor of our house. And then the rest of the day was just spent harvesting up more wood because making a hardwood floor like that cost a lot of logs. So I just needed to refresh my stockpile. Day 30, I am putting up some framing for the house to try and figure out how I want the walls, where I want the ceiling, and what all I want to do there. And once I got the frame up, I realized that I had spent all day being incredibly nitpicky, and I tore down the work I did so I could do it all over again. Day 31, I did my daily chores after having set up all of the framework for the house. And after I finished the farm chores, I set about putting in some walls. I opted to go with calcite because it's probably one of my favorite blocks for the style of build that I'm going for. And it's a nice marbly texture. It also looks like wattle and daub, if you know what that is. Day 32, I am still working on the walls and being incredibly indecisive about how I want this to look. So while I thought about what I wanted to build, I decided that I would start clearing away a big old chunk of tuff, just so I can go ahead and get more, because I'm going to need a lot for this build and for other builds I want to do in the area. And then I spent the evening trying to piece together more of the wall, figuring out what heights I wanted. Day 33, I am still working on these walls and just testing out different ways of arranging it. I'm also automating my furnace just a little bit with a couple of hoppers. I ended up doing it to both sides. I also built myself some scaffolding because I was going to need it, and then I started installing my windows. Day 34, I ripped out my windows because I didn't like how they looked, and I rearranged things yet again. And this will not be the final setup, but I'm getting close. I'm getting close to the way that I want it. On day 35, I spent literally all day chopping trees again because I was running low on wood once again, and they were ready to harvest. On day 36, I started laying out the roof for the little jutty out bits of my house, and I think they look pretty okay. I was fairly content with the way that these were set up, and so then I went to bed happy with it, and on day 37, it was time to start installing some storage in the house and moving some things in. It's starting to come together all right. I've got the floors, I've got the walls, and I'm fairly happy with how things are working out so far. Not only did I need to put the storage in here just so while I'm building, I have faster access to my blocks. And then, to take a quick break, I built myself a berry farm because this is important. After that, I spent a little bit more time on the walls. Day 38, I decided that I wanted some crown molding, so I spent a good chunk of time working on that. And then I, again, continued to move my items into my new storage space. This probably won't be my final storage area, but I am looking pretty happy with how things are coming out so far. I got some barrels scattered around, and it's a little decorative, a little practical. And then I spent the night of day 38 putting a ceiling down, so that way I wasn't exposed to the rain. Day 39, I started outlining the roof of my house. I had a good idea of the palette I wanted to use. I didn't have all the blocks I needed, but I wanted to at least get the shape in, and doing some deep slate tiles, I love the way it looks. I do not love the way that this roof shape is coming up. It just doesn't seem quite right, but day 40, I added a few middle braces just to see how it would look, and I just wasn't sure about it yet. So I decided that I'd think on it a little longer before coming back to it. Day 41, it was time to journey once again, because there was one type of wood that I desperately wanted and have yet to find, and that's mangrove wood. I would love to have access to mangrove so I can make my roof all nice and red. That's the color that I would really like. I also needed sand, so I did manage to find myself a desert biome, which warm biomes are always promising. There's a better chance of finding a mangrove near a warm biome. So I ended up exploring, and I found my way to a village. This desert village actually ends up being quite important for the next, 20 days or so. Because I end up being kind of my hub and my home, where I was able to gather up a bunch of XP, explore around, and try and find myself a mangrove swamp. No luck here, though. I cranked up the render distance, and all I spied in the distance was a jungle. Day 43, I'm bringing my treasure boat over to the village that I found, since I decided that this was going to be my base camp, especially since there was a mineshaft right next to it. So I figured I'd explore the mineshaft just a little bit, see what kind of fancy loot I can get, and I'm pretty sure it was this mineshaft that I got my second golden apple from, or second god apple, but I couldn't find the clip. So I spent the rest of this day gathering up gold and coal from the mineshaft, before sleeping in the shaft, and then on day 44, I planted down some sugarcane because I was going to need a cartographer villager. And the cartographer villager was going to be super important because he's how I get access to a trial chamber. I haven't mentioned it, but my goal for this 100 days is that by the end of it, I will take on a trial chamber. That's it. I wanted to survive 100 days and conquer a trial chamber. That's all I was really going for here, and these villagers were going to be a huge help in that process. I had to go and gather more sugarcane, so at the end of day 44, I set out on a quest for more sugarcane. Day 45, I found yet another desert village, not terribly far away from the first one, and of course I spent some time gathering up all of their wheat so that I could sell it back to that first village. This village also had a librarian in it, so I was super stoked because that means that I could get a head start on all of the bookcases that I was going to need for my enchanting setup. The rest of that day I set out about exploring, and I managed to actually find some rusty wolves. Unfortunately, I didn't have any bones on me at the time, and I never went back for them. But I did sleep near them, so that was great. On day 46, I found one of the mobs I was looking for. I found a sheep. And thanks to leads, it was quite easy to get him back to the second village initially, where I was able to make myself a brush, because I had actually spotted a desert temple near this village. So I decided to spend the rest of the day looting out the desert temple. And in it, I didn't find a ton of great loot, but I did find nothing good in this one. I did get bones, though. I never do go back for those dogs, though. I did get the desert trim, which is great, as well as a little bit of emeralds. And then I did a little bit of sherd hunting, because in the desert temple, honestly, the best loot for doing the archaeology brushing is in the desert temples. You find sherds, you find diamonds, you find emeralds, and then I went to sleep in the temple and awoke on day 47 to a villager stuck in the boat with the sheep. I figure he's volunteering to come with me, and I wanted to try out the new feature where you can put boats on leads. And look at this. I've got a villager and a sheep in a boat, and then I get in a boat, and then I can pull them along with me. Oh my god, this is revolutionary. Seriously, transporting large amounts of villagers has never been easier. I got back to the first village on day 47 and sold all of the paper from the sugarcane that I had found, and still didn't quite get the guy up to a high enough level to get me the map that I wanted. So I spent some time on day 48 just kind of doing the trades and working on getting the villagers leveled up. I also went back into the caves to get a bit more gold, just because in the event that I was able to make a cleric, you can sell them gold. On day 49, I emerged once again from the mine shaft and headed back over to the village with the hopes that my sugarcane had grown. And also, I found a second sheep, and the cartographer had decided that he wanted to ride in my boat. So now I've got 2 villagers in boats. Again, I didn't put him there. He got in there all on his own. This guy did sell a jungle exploration map and a plains village map. So I decided on day 50 that I was going to go ahead and buy those and then maybe go explore them. He also got the level up, and there it is, the Trial Explorer map. This here is the end goal. This is my final boss for this playthrough. I started by going to explore the Jungle Temple, following the map on day 50, and it was on day 51 that I finally arrived at the jungle and made my way off towards the Jungle Temple. They're not the best structures in Minecraft, but when you find them, you do sometimes get some pretty cool loot, and there's a lot of redstone components in here. I, of course, went in, was very sneaky, managed to get a diamond, an unbreaking book, as well as a bunch more bones, and a saddle. And then I, of course, solved the redstone puzzle and got another unbreaking book and the wild armor trim. So that's super neat. I've got more than one trim I can play with. Day 52, I decided to make my way back towards the original desert village, but I went via this savanna biome with the hopes that there would be a mangrove swamp nearby, and instead I found yet another village. So I decided that I would pop in here real quick, and I just stayed the night, took all of their loot, and then continued on my way on day 53. Day 53, I managed to find another desert temple that I just kind of spotted while I was sailing, and in here I got another unbreaking book, as well as, let's see, in the sherding I got, looks like an emerald. Ooh, that's very fancy. And there's a diamond, so that's always useful. And, oh, I got another diamond and another sherd. Awesome. I've got some fun decorating I can do. Honestly, this is the best part of archaeology. I ascended the hill next to that desert temple because I spied a camel up there, and it turns out this temple was just on the other side of the hill from my first desert village, so I made it back here safely, without even trying. At this point, I decided I had killed enough rabbits to make some bundles, and oh my god, I didn't know just how great these were for when you've got partial stacks of things. Like, seriously, you can clean up your inventory so nicely with a bundle. I highly recommend turning on the experiment for them. I spent the rest of the day just selling all of the hay that I got and trying to gather up more emeralds from the villagers. before sailing out and then sailing out towards the Plains Village, because I figured, why not? I've still got some time to kill, and I'm still trying to find that mangrove. And I found the Plains Village right next to a sparse jungle biome, which honestly, that's kind of crazy that this happened, because if I was going to like transform a village into a metropolis with all of the librarians and whatnot, this would be a great starting place, because the jungle librarians sell mending. By the way, I do have the experiments turned on. I don't remember if I mentioned that. In this village, I found a ton of iron, though, but I think that's really all the best loot. Oh, I did take their bell. They had 2 bells, and I figured that it would be okay if I took one of them. Just so if I end up taking those villagers home with me, I'll have a better chance. Day 56, I pillared up and cranked up my render distance, but I didn't see any sign of a mangrove, so I decided to start making my journey back. Unfortunately, on day 56 is also the day that I ended up getting terribly lost. On day 57, I finally managed to make my way back to the first desert village, where I was able to gather through and go through all of my loot before doing just one last explore in the final direction that I had not gone, really hoping I would find a desert temple. Not a desert temple, a mangrove swamp. And instead, I found another village, and on day 58, I looted all of their things, found a buried treasure, followed the buried treasure map, a sunken ship and then a buried treasure. Followed that, found my way to yet another savannah village, and then continued trying to find the sunken treasure on day 59. And really, I spent literally all day trying to find this treasure. It took me so long, and when I finally got there, I did the thing. You know, you get yourself over the X, and then you go to 9 within the chunk, and you go ahead and sink on down. And when you're this deep and you've got this little air, it's usually better just to break the chest. I didn't break the chest, but I did get a diamond out of it. I have ended up back at the second desert village that I had found, where I had a chest placed down, and I was able to do a few things before pillaring up, because at this point I had lost my orientation and just wasn't really sure how to get back to the first desert village, because I didn't write the coordinates down. But I did eventually pillar up, and in the night I spied some torches that I had put down, so that meant that on the following day I was able to make my way back home. Day 62, I arrived back at the first desert village, and at this point, I think I am preparing to head home. So I'll go ahead and put these 2 boats on their leads, and then I'll hop in my boat, and I can drag these 2 boats behind me, and then there we go. 2 boats, which means I have 2 villagers and 2 sheep sailing across the ocean with me, and I sailed all of day 62 and into the night as I made my way home. And when I finally did make home, something kind of crazy happened, because I wasn't really paying attention, and I forgot the boats were still attached. And they just kind of floated up the hill with me, still attached to the leads. I didn't think they would do that. I was pretty sure the leads would have broken. I have no idea how that happened, but that was incredible. And if that's how it works moving forward, villager transportation is solved. Like, that's so easy. I decided to take all of my wealth and put it into a single barrel before throwing together myself a nice one of those fancy decorated pots, because you need that to get the achievement with the careful restoration. And I threw it down. I got the diamond. I got the skeleton. That's thrown away. All right, skeleton, diamond, and the bow. There we go. All of them all set up and oriented. And then let's go ahead and put all of our valuables away before it is time to start working on my enchanting setup. So the night of day 63 was spent just throwing together something that I would be happy with. And I opted to go inspired by Stonehenge and just kind of creating myself a Minecraft ruined circle stone thing, whatever. But I like the look of it, and I will do a lot to improve it as the rest of this journey goes on. Day 64, and I have finished my enchanting setup with all the books that I need, and it's time to start enchanting some tools. I started with pickaxe, and I got Silk Touch first try, and Fortune 3 on my second try, so that was exciting. I was feeling super lucky, so I decided I'd run and make some diamond boots for myself, try and get feather falling, and ended up putting Sweeping Edge and Smite on a sword instead. I then put Unbreaking and renamed my pickaxes, so that way they would be nice and durable for me while I went to go ahead and find all those diamonds that I had been not collecting until I got fortune. And I gotta tell you, I found quite a few diamonds. And taking a peek down there, you can see there's just so many mobs that are outside of my safe little section of the cave. And it's terrifying. I genuinely don't feel safe leaving the cave. On day 65, I emerged from my mining operations in order to fortune all of my diamonds. And let's see just how many diamonds I end up getting. 39 diamonds from all those ores, so that is awesome. It means I can finish making armor and get myself full diamond tools. I spent the rest of the day just doing some mapping and doing a little bit of decoration around the base. On day 66, I started laying out the shape for the villager home. As I've got the 2 villagers now, so I can go ahead and make them a safe little place to live, and I spent all day working on it. Day 67, I am installing some windows and trying to make the place look nice and pretty, including doing some furnishing for them, getting them some nightstands, which they won't even appreciate. And then I decided I was gonna see about doing a little bit of work on my roof for the rest of the day. And I ultimately decided that it was too tall and I wanted it to be smaller, so it took me probably most of day 67 and a solid chunk of day 68. Just getting all of the reshaping done. Now it's smaller, but I quite like it, and it was time to move over and put a roof on the villager house, because it is day 68, and day 69 is coming, and I want to make sure that these guys have a safe place to live. So safe that I actually spent day 68, the evening of 68, ripping out the walls and rearranging everything. But it looks nice now. Day 69, and I am finishing up the villager's roof. I decided to go with acacia because I just couldn't find mangrove, and I'm running out of time and I don't want to spend the rest of this 100 days looking for it. I also did some texturing on the walls of my own house because I was out of calcite and needed some for the villager house. I could have gone down to the geode and gathered a bunch that way, but I figured I only needed a few blocks, so if I just swapped out a few for mushroom stems in my own house, I'd get the texturing done and it would look great. And then the night of day 69, I fed the villagers. They weren't gonna, do anything fun, but I did laugh at this guy while he struggled to pick up the single piece of bread. However, after that, I went back to working on my house, and on day 70, I actually liked what I had started with the texturing, so I figured I was gonna do more, which I ended up having to get a ton more mushroom stems, which are not abundant. And then I decided that I was just gonna go mine more calcite anyway, so I ended up down in the mines for the rest of day 70, just gathering calcite, finding diamonds, and then finding more mobs, and including just a very, very dangerous area. Like this here is the edge. They can spawn just beyond where I am. Actually, I think I am in their spawning area, and there are just so many mobs that gather right near the fringes because these are the only areas that are really allowed to spawn. I emerged from the mines on day 71 with a little bit of a plan on what I wanted to work on, and that would be my own roof. I had an idea for how I wanted to do things, so I spent the evening of day 71 just sort of trying to plot out and figure out how I wanted this upper floor to work, and I settled for acacia wood as my roofing block. I really didn't want to, but I didn't have any mangrove, so day 72 I am gathering up even more acacia and putting on more and more stairs and blocks in order to get my roof finished. By the end of day 72, I am just about finished with putting on this roof, and then on day 73, I am working on the foundations, just kind of bringing the stone parts down all the way to the ground, because I don't like it when you see, cobblestone or tuff sitting on dirt, so I'd rather have it stretch all the way down to the ground, which is what I spent all of day 73 working on. And then before going to bed, I laid out an area where I was going to be able to safely plant some grass so it wouldn't get infested by the mycelium. I still needed to get the grass blocks for it, and I also had accidentally killed one of my sheep, so I was going to need to find another sheep, but this should be a big enough area just to get me started. On day 74, I set out searching for that new sheep. Again, I accidentally killed one of the other ones, and so I only had one left, and I also needed grass, and I decided traveling west would be my best bet. As I arrived at a small island to the west, I decided that I would just use my Silk Touch pick to pick up the grass because I don't have a Silk Touch shovel, so y'all get to watch this happen. after that, I continued on my way and managed to find myself a sheep and decided that it was time to bring him home. On day 75, I got distracted while I was exploring because I found yet another sunken treasure, only to realize that this was a treasure that I had already looted before. So I apparently have been here before, and in shame, I rode my way back home on the night of day 75. Day 76, I started installing the grass for the sheep. I probably could have just put one and then just left it and let it spread, but I was impatient, so I put a couple of lines in because I wanted it to get green quickly. And after that, I installed a fence, and it had already spread pretty far by the time I got the fence in, so I just brought the 3 sheep in, and this is going to be their home now. Congratulations, guys. You live here forever. Okay, maybe not forever. I might build an automatic wool farm at some point. I spent the evening of day 76 just harvesting crops and finishing my chores. Day 77, my 2 baby villagers that had spawned grew up, so I set about getting myself a toolsmith and a weaponsmith and the ability to buy a new tool when one breaks is just really valuable to me. So by the end of that trading session, I had managed to get my toolsmith up to master so I could buy shovels and pickaxes from him. With all the XP I got from that trading session, I was able to enchant myself some diamond boots with feather falling on them. It's only feather falling 3, but I'm not going to complain. At this point, I've got fairly decent armor for when I decide that it's time to take on the trial chamber. And after all that, I decided it was time to go to bed. Day 78, and I spent all day smelting up ores. Literally, this is all I did today. I hung out by this furnace, and I smelted things. It's really an uneventful day. Day 79, I used some of those ores I had smelted to install some final windows in this upstairs. I don't have an access to this upstairs room, but it's lit, and at some point I'll build a staircase, and then I can use it for storage. That's what I keep telling myself anyways. But with that, most of the bulk of the house is done. There's just a lot of interior and exterior work, and for that, I'm gonna need more tuff. Also, it's day 80 now, and I started to get an idea for something I wanted to build as just kind of a testament. Testament's the wrong word, a monument. That's what I meant to say. I decided I was gonna build a monument. So after nearly clearing out the entirety of that tuff vein and gathering up the gold, lapis, and redstone from it, I opted to bounce my way back home and just get some sleep for the night while I gathered up the supplies I would need. Day 81, I was going to need a lot more sand, I was going to need some terracotta, and I figured it was just time, since I had expanded the map, that I was going to bounce back to the desert just real quick. I wasn't going to spend too many days here, 1 full day tops. So I literally spent all day gathering up sand and terracotta. That was it. And on day 82, as the sun rises, I am making my way back to my island. As I arrived, I went to gather up all of the materials that I was pretty sure I was going to need, and discovered that I had nowhere near enough smooth basalt. So I went and got a ton more smooth basalt, as well as finding more diamonds. Just lots of diamonds around here, which is super exciting. Day 83, I have emerged and forgotten that I was going to be building a monument, and am instead doing some decoration. I ended up using azalea leaves because in the mushroom biome, like seriously, they're so green. And then I finished up the day by making a ton of stained glass. After that, it was time to start working on my monument for day 84. My thought was that I would just have a big old floating crystal rock formation that looks magical and stuff. And you can see it's starting to come along all right. By the end of day 84, I was starting to put on some spiky crystal bits because I figured that looked super cool. Lots of spiky crystal bits growing off of my fancy floating rock, and that's too many spiky crystal bits. Day 85, I ended up correcting a lot of the issues that I had with it on day 84 and doing the finishing touches. And honestly, that looks good. I'm content with the way that it is. It's good. It's my 100 Days Monument, floating magic rock above the stone circle. Now, on day 86, it was time to do more island beautification. I wanted to make myself a proper boardwalk dock area, and I figured that right near my house was going to be the best bet. So I started first by working on a retaining wall that would wrap around this portion of, I guess, my house's side yard. And after working on and installing that wall, I was quite happy with the way that it looked. I borrowed this texturing from some that I saw on Hermitcraft. This wasn't an original idea by me, but I spent the rest of the evening just throwing together more of it on the other side. Day 87, and I am installing the flooring for the first part of this boardwalk. And I literally spent all day working on this. Literally, like here we are, it's the end of day 87, and I am still throwing down spruce slabs. Day 88, and I am installing some lighting around the dock area because it'll look nicer with some lights. Yeah, lights will pull it together. There's still a lot of work to do, including installing some fencing around the area, and here we are so far. End of day 88, I'm pretty content with how it looks. There's still a lot of details that I want to put in. Day 89, and I'm genuinely surprised that I'm still alive. Yeah, I'm on a mushroom island, but it is time to prepare for the trial chamber, which, honestly, that's the scariest thing. So I spent the day trading with my villagers to get up a bunch of XP, because there's one tool that I still didn't have yet. And that tool was an enchanted bow. I didn't get very good enchantments on it, but I got Power 3 and Unbreaking, so I named it Thwip, and decided that would be it. Day 90. It is time for my journey to the trial chamber to begin. I have no idea how far away it is because I got this map from a village that's literally like across an entire maxed out map away from me, so it could be quite the journey. And it turned out not to be that far at all, actually. I found it quite quickly, and after exploring the little island it's on a little bit and making sure that all of my supplies were tucked away correctly, as you can see, I cannot resist the sunken ships. But I spent all day just kind of preparing. Day 91, I headed towards the chamber, and that's when I got ambushed by a pillager patrol. This is literally the first one I have seen in my journey so far, and it's right before I take on the trial chamber, so there I am, getting an ominous bottle. I guess that would be a bit of an omen, don't you think, for me to head in. The closest thing to a cave I found was this flooded cave, so I decided I would use this with the water-breathing potion I had gotten to head down and see just how far it would go. It didn't go very deep, but as I was digging down from that area, I came across the trial chamber. I actually heard the vault, so I've never seen one up this high, but here we are, day 91. We are officially entering the trial chamber. And of course, it's gotta be bogged. Of the trial chamber mob options, I feel like the bogged, the husk, and the cave spiders are like the worst combination you can get because you've got to worry about hunger and health. But for my first vault, I got a golden apple, an ominous bottle, and an enchanted axe, which is not bad, but it does seem like inventory management might prove to be a problem. As I made my way through the chamber, I made sure to break the copper doors that I had gone through, that way I knew. I also marked the one that had my exit, just so I would be able to definitely leave when I needed to. And then I started my way, just slowly clearing through the chamber, trying to take on just one spawner at a time. Sometimes that's impossible, you end up activating more than one. Sometimes you're able to activate just the one like I'm doing here. And the bogged aren't the worst mob in the world, but they're so annoying. Also, the MVP of this run literally has been the bundles. You get so many incomplete stacks of things that being able to condense them all into a bundle is just so useful. I probably should have brought more than just 3 with me, but that's all I brought. And as we made our way, it looks like, oh look, joyful. It's not just bogs that I have to deal with, it's cave spiders too, so I've got 2 mobs that can poison me. What else do we have in here? Our melee mob is the husk. Alrighty, so this is literally what I would consider to be the hardest variant of a trial chamber, because you've got 3 mobs that debuff you, 1 that debuffs hunger, and 2 that debuff health. The start of day 92, I found the last large combat room in the trial chamber and had a close call with some baby husks. I accidentally opened a chest there. Thankfully, they didn't deal too much damage, and I was able to take them out without too deadly of an encounter with them. This was also the first room where I actually got to fight a breeze. I think this was the only room that had breeze spawners in it. And fighting these guys is actually fun. Like, it's so much different than the usual just stand there and bat them away. These guys are mobile, and chasing them makes it a lot more engaging. I've been also collecting eggs as I went because I don't have chickens, and being able to bring eggs home to make chickens would be great. Partway through day 92, I decided I was going to drink a, ominous bottle and take on an ominous trial because I really wanted a mace. I know it's greedy and that I'm risking myself a ton by doing this, but I figured I'd be totally safe. So I spent most of day 92 just redoing this room, and then slowly working my way through the chambers, just to get as much loot as I can. And actually, the ominous trials do get really intense. You can see here, my health gets down to 2 hearts, and I've still got a ton to fight. I actually ended up eating one of my god apples here, because I was that scared that I was about to die with all of these mobs charging at me. Seriously, I think the god apple is what saved me there, because there's just so many that spawn from the ominous trial. And I'm starting to think that I may have made a mistake, but at the same time, each time you conquer it, you get a little more confident, and those ominous keys are just so tempting for that ominous vault. So I spent the rest of day 92 slowly and methodically making my way out of the chamber back to the room that I started in to try and gather up as much loot and as much good stuff as I can, because I don't want to have to come back here. Day 93, and I am back at the room that I started in, working on clearing out the final of the ominous trials. It's taken me quite a while to get here, and I'm still short a few ominous keys, but so far I've actually been having a lot of fun, even with as challenging as this is. Made sure to, the regen potions they give you are super useful, and this actually right here, oh man, I didn't realize that silverfish were spawning, and I'm just taking damage left and right, and this could be it, folks. This is just really not the best spot for me to be in. I did end up managing to back away and back down, and while the bog focused on each other, I just had to worry about the silverfish. I grabbed my god apple in hand, but my health was so low I wasn't sure I'd have time to eat it before they took me out, so I just kind of kept backing up, waiting for the regen potion to kick in. And after my health got up a bit higher, I was able to finish off the silverfish and finish clearing out this room without too much more difficulty, but oh, that right there was the closest I've come to death this entire playthrough. I did manage to get one more ominous key, but I still needed another one, because I knew there was one more vault. I did manage to get the second armor trim. I've managed to find both armor trims throughout this, as well as all of the shirts. I've just been putting them in the bundles. But by day 94, I had one ominous vault left, and I just needed one more key. So I drank one more ominous potion and headed down into the chambers to take on this room that I had started in. It had been long enough that it reset, so I ended up fighting my way through here, and I was feeling good. I was going to get the last ominous key, loot the last vault, and then I could head home and revel in my victory of 100 days survived.